What if the darkest corner of your backyard could actually become its most beautiful feature? Most homeowners see shade, limited floor space, and an old tree trunk as problems. But with the right design, those same challenges can become the foundation of an incredible vertical garden. Imagine turning a tree trunk into a living sculpture, layering plants upward instead of outward, and creating a lush backyard retreat without sacrificing valuable walking space. Today on Houzz Ideas, we're exploring 9 vertical tree trunk gardens designed specifically for small, shade-heavy modern backyard spaces. And stay until the end, because the final idea combines natural wood, vertical planting, and modern lighting to create a backyard feature that looks almost like a living piece of architecture. Before we begin, if you love creative garden design, modern landscaping, and smart small space ideas, make sure to subscribe to Houzz Ideas, turn on notifications, and let's transform another overlooked backyard space together. Now, let's begin. Idea number 1. The Living Tree Trunk Tower. Our first idea is perhaps the simplest, and one of the most visually striking. Instead of removing an old tree trunk, turn it into a living vertical tower. The concept is straightforward. Keep the trunk standing, clean the surface, remove unsafe or deteriorating sections, and then introduce small planting pockets at different heights. Rather than creating one large planting bed, you're building a garden that grows vertically. For a shade-heavy backyard, choose plants that naturally tolerate lower light. Ferns, mosses, bromeliads, ivy, and other shade-loving foliage can create layers of texture without requiring intense sunlight. The secret is irregularity. Don't place every planter at exactly the same height. Offset them. Vary their sizes. Allow some foliage to spill downward while other plants grow outward. This creates the impression that the garden has naturally evolved around the tree. And because the planting happens vertically, you preserve precious floor space. It's perfect for narrow side yards, compact patios, or modern backyards where every square foot matters. Idea number 2. Tree trunk with floating plant shelves. If you prefer a cleaner, more architectural look, here's an idea worth stealing. Turn the trunk into a vertical plant display with floating shelves. Instead of attaching dozens of pots directly to the wood, install a few carefully positioned shelves around the trunk. The result feels less like a traditional garden and more like an outdoor sculpture. This approach works especially well in modern backyard designs because you can coordinate the shelf material with the existing architecture. Black metal creates a sophisticated industrial appearance. Natural timber creates warmth. And minimalist concrete shelves can create a beautiful contrast between hardscape and organic texture. Keep the plant palette restrained. Instead of using 20 different species, choose perhaps 3 or 4 complementary varieties. This gives the garden a more intentional appearance. And remember, small plants don't need to remain small forever. As they grow and spill over the edges, the shelves gradually disappear beneath layers of greenery. So the garden actually becomes more beautiful with time. Idea number 3. The Shade Garden Tree Trunk Wall. Now let's take the concept one step further. What if one tree trunk isn't enough? Create a vertical tree trunk wall. Use several naturally weathered trunks or large branches and arrange them vertically against a boundary wall. Between them, introduce shade-loving plants at different heights. The trunks become the structure. The plants become the living artwork. This is especially effective in a small backyard where a traditional horizontal garden bed would make the space feel even narrower. The vertical composition draws the eye upward. And that's an important design trick for compact gardens. When floor space is limited, don't just think horizontally. Think vertically. Use height to create the illusion of a larger garden. You can also repeat the colors and materials already used elsewhere in the backyard. If your patio uses warm timber, echo that warmth in the tree trunks. If the architecture is minimalist and monochromatic, allow the natural texture of the wood and greenery to become the focal point. Idea number 4, the tree trunk moss column. For extremely shady spaces, here's a concept that feels almost magical. Turn the trunk into a moss-covered living column. Instead of trying to make the wood look new, celebrate its age. Let the weathering become part of the design. Moss can create a soft, green surface that contrasts beautifully with modern hardscape materials. Imagine a dark charcoal patio. Smooth concrete walls, minimalist furniture, and then, rising from the corner, an ancient-looking tree trunk covered in rich green texture. That contrast is powerful. You can enhance the effect by planting small ferns, woodland-style ground covers, and shade-tolerant foliage around its base. The key is to make it feel natural rather than overly manufactured. Avoid arranging everything too perfectly. Let the plants overlap. Allow moss to occupy irregular areas, and create different textures across the surface. The result can feel like a miniature forest brought into a contemporary backyard. Idea number 5, the vertical tree trunk herb and shade garden. Who says a vertical garden has to be purely decorative? In the right conditions, your tree trunk can also become a compact edible garden feature. Think small pockets of herbs and shade-tolerant edible plants arranged vertically. This is especially useful for homeowners who want greenery but don't have enough room for a traditional vegetable garden. Place frequently used herbs where they're easy to reach. Lower levels can hold larger containers, while upper levels can showcase smaller plants. But there's one important consideration. Not every edible plant performs well in heavy shade. So before planting, check the actual light levels in your backyard and choose varieties that match those conditions. The design should follow the environment, not fight it. And visually, this concept can be beautiful. The combination of natural wood, edible greenery, terracotta containers, and modern landscaping creates a relaxed but sophisticated atmosphere. It's a garden that looks good and has a purpose. Idea number 6, tree trunk plus hanging plant cascade. If you want maximum impact without using much ground space, try a hanging plant cascade. Instead of placing every plant on the ground, use the vertical structure of the tree trunk to suspend containers at multiple levels. Start with 1 or 2 plants near the base. Then gradually move upward. Add hanging baskets, small pots, trailing foliage, and perhaps one dramatic plant positioned near the top. The eye naturally follows the greenery from bottom to top. This creates a strong vertical rhythm. And when trailing plants begin to cascade downward, the trunk can almost disappear beneath a curtain of foliage. For a modern backyard, keep the containers consistent. Use matching matte black pots for a contemporary look. Or choose natural terracotta if you want something warmer and more organic. This is also one of the easiest concepts to refresh. Change the plants seasonally. Move containers around. Experiment with different heights. Your vertical garden doesn't have to remain static. It can evolve with your backyard. Idea number 7, the minimalist tree trunk sculpture. Sometimes, less is more. And this next concept proves it. Instead of covering the entire trunk with plants, make the tree itself the centerpiece. Create a minimalist tree trunk sculpture. Choose a naturally interesting trunk with twists, branches, cracks, or beautiful bark texture. Place it against a simple architectural backdrop. Then surround it with only a few carefully selected plants. This creates negative space around the trunk. And negative space is extremely important in modern garden design. It gives the eye somewhere to rest. The result feels sophisticated because every element has a purpose. You might use 3 architectural plants at the base, 1 low-growing ground cover, and perhaps subtle uplighting to emphasize the texture after sunset. This concept works particularly well when your backyard already has strong architectural features. You don't need more decoration. You simply need one unforgettable natural focal point. Idea number 8, the tree trunk frame garden. Now let's make the tree trunk functional. Imagine walking into your backyard and seeing a vertical wooden structure framing a small garden niche. This is the tree trunk frame garden. Use several branches or trunks to create a natural frame around a planting zone, bench, water feature, or even a compact outdoor seating area. The frame visually separates one part of the backyard from another without requiring a solid wall. And that's perfect for small spaces. Solid walls can make compact gardens feel enclosed. But open vertical structures provide separation while allowing light and air to move through the space. Add shade-loving plants between and around the trunks. Then place a small bench underneath. Suddenly, your garden isn't just something you look at. It's somewhere you experience. You could even combine the idea with a tiny water bowl or stone feature to create a quiet meditation corner. The result is intimate, natural, and surprisingly luxurious. Idea number 9, the illuminated living tree trunk. And now for our final idea. This one can completely transform the atmosphere of a small backyard after dark. Create an illuminated living tree trunk garden. During the day, it's a vertical garden. At night, it becomes a glowing architectural feature. The trick is subtle lighting. Avoid flooding the entire trunk with bright light. Instead, use low-level spotlights from below to highlight the bark texture. Add small accent lights near selected plants. And if appropriate for the installation, consider tiny concealed lights that create a soft glow through the foliage. The contrast between darkness, warm light, natural wood, and green leaves can be incredible. And here's the real advantage. Lighting doesn't just make the garden visible at night. It changes how the space feels. A small backyard that seemed ordinary during the day can suddenly feel intimate, luxurious, and almost resort-like. And because the garden grows vertically, you get all of that atmosphere without filling the entire patio with furniture or large planting beds. Before you build your own vertical tree trunk garden, there are a few principles worth remembering. First, respect the shade. Don't choose plants simply because they look beautiful online. Choose plants that can actually thrive in the light conditions available in your backyard. Second, protect the tree and structure. If you're working with a living tree, avoid damaging the bark or attaching heavy structures without understanding how they could affect the tree. If you're using an old trunk, make sure it's structurally sound and free from dangerous decay. Third, think in layers. A successful vertical garden usually has something happening at the bottom, middle, and upper levels. This creates depth. Fourth, repeat materials. If your backyard has black metal, concrete, timber, or stone, repeat those materials in your vertical garden. That repetition makes the feature feel integrated rather than randomly added. And finally, don't overcrowd it. Sometimes one beautiful trunk with 5 carefully selected plants will look far more sophisticated than 20 containers competing for attention. A small backyard doesn't have to feel limited. And a shady backyard doesn't have to feel lifeless. Sometimes, the secret isn't creating more space. It's learning how to use the space you already have differently. A forgotten tree trunk can become a living tower. A weathered branch can become a garden sculpture. A shady corner can become a peaceful retreat. And a simple vertical planting system can turn an ordinary backyard wall into a living piece of art. The most beautiful gardens aren't always the biggest ones. They're the ones where every element has a purpose. So, which of these 9 vertical tree trunk garden ideas would you try in your backyard? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoyed these ideas, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Houzz Ideas, and turn on notifications for more creative backyard, garden, landscaping, and outdoor design inspiration. Thanks for watching Houzz Ideas. And remember, when space is limited, look up. See you in the next video.